welcome to Making the Beat 101 with me. I'm Tannone. I'm going to show you basically how to make a beat from start to finish in about 10 or 15 minutes using my laptop, which is my main setup. I run Fruity Loops. It's a sequencing program. It's about a $149 program, depending on the version you get. There's different versions. And hopefully it'll be interesting and informative. And behind me, I just have some of my other hardware gear. An old Yamaha DX100 synthesizer that I use a lot to get ideas for melodies and stuff. Guitar, also a lot of the hardware instruments, like, you know, the synths and the guitar, and my drum kit in the other room I use to basically get a framework, you know, kind of an idea of what I want to do, kind of a foundation. And sometimes I'll just noodle around the keyboard to get a melody, or to figure out how to fit, you know, a bass line to a sample, etc. So hopefully it'll be interesting, and let's start. Alright, so first off, when I start a beat, I usually start with the drums, and right now what you're seeing is a list of samples in Fruity Loops. On the left they have this browser, and you basically browse through all your samples, which are WAV or MP3 files, and you can see I have them organized, you know, flute, guitar, all kinds of stuff. Some of it's done by date, you know, January 2004 drums, etc. And you can go through here and see, we open up this kit here, and you know, you can just go through and check out some of these sounds. Little snare drum. You basically have the ability to listen to these just by clicking on them, and, you know, judging by what folder they're in, you know, I just organize them by what they are. So that's that. Okay, so basically over here is the sample pane, and over here is what we have, the step sequencer. And each one of these boxes, these little squares that can light up and then you can erase, that represents a 16th note. And each line up here, it corresponds to a sample. For example, this is a kick drum. Okay, I like to start off with the drum. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the tempo down of the track. So right now it's set at 140. That's the default. I'm just going to turn this down to 95 just to start, because for, you know, basic, most hip hop beats are from, you know, 85 to 110. So that's a good middle average there. I'm just going to also quickly extend from 4 bars to 8, and what that effectively did was double this, and for me it just gives me more freedom when I do my drums. It's really to each his own, but that's what I do. So now I'm going to choose some samples. I'm going to choose my drum sounds. Okay, so now I have my basic drum beat completed. This is the pattern right here. It's just basic. I have my hi-hats represented up here. This is kick drum. Boom, boom, click. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? These are snares, and this is just an open hi-hat sound. Okay? This is a really basic drum beat. Okay? You can do this, and this took me 2 seconds to do. And down here is my playlist, and basically I just have 5 bars of repeating drums. Just so it will repeat over and over again. Now I can slow this down to 53. I can speed this up. Like I said, we're going to keep it around 95 for this. Okay? So now I'm going to look for a sample. I found a really cool piano sample that I can demonstrate how to chop up a sample and integrate it with some drums. And, you know, using a sample, it's good to learn when you're first learning, because you can learn how to add other elements to a pre-existing sample and learn how to make the drums fit around it. So now I'm going to find a sample. Okay, so I've chosen a piano sample. I've just loaded it into Fruity Loops, into what's called the Fruity Slicer. And essentially the Fruity Slicer just takes a sample and it breaks it up into chunks, so that then you can move these chunks around and rearrange the sample to basically make, you know, a new melody, or to make alterations to the piano loop. This is how it sounds right now. Alright, Alright, so as you could hear, it got offbeat after the first measure of the piano sample. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get rid of this part of the piano sample, and I'm going to copy this part back over so it repeats, because this part was on tempo. So now if we listen to it, now we can hear it, and it's much more on beat than it was previously. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some other instrumentation and do a little bit more alteration to the sample. I'm going to chop it up a little bit, and you'll start to hear the difference. So right now, I've done a little altering to the sample, as you can hear, like repeating and stopping. I've added some vocals to the beat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for some strings to add to the beat, and the only real trick is to just make it fit with the sample. You know, the notes need to be harmonious with one another. You can't just put any notes over this piano sample. So right now we have this basic skeleton of a beat. It's not very polished, it's not mixed. The instruments aren't panned from left to right. Like, generally when I do a beat, what I do is I pan each instrument. For example, like a kick drum will be panned slightly to the left or slightly to the right, and the snare drum will be panned slightly to the left, slightly to the right, etc. You don't want to have all your channels dead center, stacked on top of one another, because the frequencies will compete with one another, and instead of having different dynamics in each channel, they're all muddled together right in the center channel, and you can lose a lot of your sounds in the mix. You want to keep the frequency dynamic. So now, like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through Fruity Loops, and I'm going to look for some strings to add to the beat, maybe some violin or some cello, and that will hopefully set it off, add some variation to the beat. Because right now, like I said, all we have is drums and this piano loop. I might add some DJ scratches in there. That might sound cool. But basically, like, the same person can, like myself, I can make a bunch of different beats out of this, and that's why it's cool for other people to do it as well, because different people have different ideas, and like someone could hear this sample and flip it a totally different way than I would, which makes it interesting, which is why I don't know why I enjoy doing this type of thing. So I'm gonna look for some strings right now. Alright, right now what I've done, I just loaded up what's called a virtual studio instrument, VSTI for short, and Fruity Loops has the capability to run these. They're like plugins basically, and a lot of different companies make them. This one in particular is called Edirol Orchestral, and as the name would imply, it's basically an orchestra on your computer that you can control through your sequencer, in my case Fruity Loops. Like I said before, I want to add some strings. Like right now, they have some flute. They have pretty much everything, and it's pretty lifelike. It's pretty realistic. Like the concert piano is pretty good. So you would never be able to tell that this type of stuff was being programmed if you took your time to program it. Worked on velocity switching, which is basically changing the volume of each note, because when a human plays a piano or a violin, they don't, it's not the same volume every time. There's dynamics in anything, so just trying to incorporate that into what you program, you know, to try and make it sound as lifelike as possible. You don't want it to be, in most cases, you don't want it to be rigid and locked in so much. I don't really know how to explain it. So check out some of these strings. Turn this up a little bit so we can hear it. Now you have to think, what would fit with the piano? So we have this type of thing going on. So I would think maybe some violin perhaps, or some cello. Let's see. Alright, so basically what I did was I added a small breakdown with some strings. It doesn't really fit the beat, but it just gives you an idea of what you can do. So you can hear right here, the piano drops out. The drums come back in. I mean, basically making a beat, it's all about like individual expression. I mean, the way I see it. I mean, doing something like this, you know, 10, 15 minutes. I mean, of course you're not gonna come out with like, you know, something that sounds really good. But you'd be surprised at what you can do, especially like when I first started. Like I could make like 1 or 2 beats a day because I had so many ideas. And now that I've done a lot of it before, like sometimes it takes me longer because I try not to recycle what I've done before. So that's kind of just like any other sort of you know, creative thing. I guess it's the same thing, making music or whatever, painting, drawing. But this was, you know, just hopefully just gave you an idea of what you can do. And sampling or not sampling, it's really easy to make a basic beat in Fruity Loops. And once you splash around the program, you can work with some of the effects they have. You can, you know, get really cool plugins and synthesizers and, you know, pretty spaced out sounds. So you can make some pretty cool stuff. It's really just all about playing with the program. It's hard to teach. It's really something you need to do yourself. But I hope that I gave you a good idea of what it takes to make a beat and how I do it, and you know what my hobby is. And hope you enjoyed it. So this has been Making the Beat 101 with Tannone. So I hope you enjoyed it.